This weekend, Mary Mac Bakehouse will be doing a cooking demo at the Pittsburgh Irish Festival. This year, the Irish Festival will be at Kerry Blast Furnaces in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and there will be a variety of cooking demos happening over the weekend. Mary Mac's cooking demo will be on Friday, September 9th at 5:15 p.m. and Saturday, September 10th at 3:30 p.m. Make sure to stop by the Pittsburgh Irish Festival September 9th through 11th and check out all the vendors, musicians, comedians, and more. You can find more information on their Facebook page or on their website, pghirishfest.org.
Hello and welcome to In the Kitchen with Mary Mac. Today we're going to make Aunt Rachel's banana cake with yummy frosting, which is what the recipe card said. My Aunt Rachel's birthday would have been a couple days ago. She passed away this past winter. She was known for baking just really good little cakes, and fantastic cookie maker, beautiful pizzelles.
Oh, and always having at least 3 different kinds of dessert when you went over to her
Oh,
house.
yeah.
At
And-
any time.
and-
no warning, she would just have it.
Yes, and ice cream,
Yes.
and
Specifically the chocolate with the marshmallow swirl.
oh yeah.
Mhm.
And she kept her cookies in little tins. So she had these, those old tins, like things like cookies came in, those Danish cookies or whatever. She had all kinds of tins. She had ever cookies in them. And she always made me coffee when I went over. She always had coffee just for me because she didn't drink it anymore. So she would open the fresh can of coffee, make a pot of coffee, and then send the canister of coffee home with me. So, but this cake was one of the things she was known for. It's delicious. I am not a banana cake lover or a banana anything. I mean, I like bananas okay, but I would not choose a banana cake over anything else, and I don't really like to make banana bread, that kind of thing. Like, it's one of okay, I'll eat it. I'm not going to turn it away, but
I love a banana cake, and I love Aunt Rachel's banana cake.
yeah, Aunt Rachel's banana cake is phenomenal. I've always liked it. I've really always liked it. And I got this recipe from my cousin, and I just happened to think, oh, I have to do this recipe because this would be, we haven't done a cake in a little while, and I thought this would be perfect. And then, her birthday just passed. It's just perfect timing. So this is a tried and true recipe. It's a very, very good recipe, pretty simple. You should have most of the ingredients. You might have to get some of the ingredients, but it's a pretty good one. I'll give you a little tip on the bananas you want to use and how to do that part of it. This particular cake calls for 2 mashed ripe bananas. I do occasionally make things with banana in it. So this is what I do to have ripe bananas around all the time. Now, this was a tip that was given to me a long time ago by someone. I don't even remember who told me this, but when you're using ripe bananas in a recipe, you want to let the bananas, once a banana gets too ripe to eat, too mushy, a little bit too soft to eat, you want to let it finish ripening, and you want the skin to be almost entirely brown. You want it to be very soft, because when it does that, it really develops a lot of flavor. It gets very, very sweet, and the banana flavor intensifies. So what you want to do is, for example, this recipe calls for 2 bananas. So you very carefully remove the peels from them. Usually my bananas are so ripe that they're almost like you can't even peel them. That's how ripe they are. And that's how I like them for a recipe, because they're very strong banana flavored then. So you very carefully peel the banana and put the bananas into a Ziploc freezer bag. So this recipe calls for 2 bananas. You put 2 bananas in the freezer bag, label it, squeeze all the air out that you can, and put it in the freezer. That way, when you want to make something, it's just a matter of getting those bananas out and thawing them. You have the exact amount of banana. All you have to do is mash them up, and they're ready to go. I have a lot of bags in my in my refrigerator freezer that have 2 bananas in them. And my husband got one of them out the other day because he thought it was 2 hot dogs in there. And he was going to cook them. And he goes, what are these, hot dogs or kielbasa or what? And I said, it's bananas. What are you doing? He goes, oh, I was just going to cook one to eat it. And I said, well, you would have been disappointed because it is a ripe banana. That's what it is. So, anywho, they're very handy to have. I've probably got about 3 to 4 bags of them going right now. But like I said, it's just a handy way to do it, and it's the right amount so you don't have to waste anything. And also, you're not wasting bananas that maybe get too ripe. If you don't like to make a lot of banana things, they're also great to throw into a smoothie, which occasionally happens at our house. So there you go. That's your banana tip for the day. Here we go on the cake. So my Aunt Rachel made her cake in a 9x13 glass baking dish, or a slightly smaller. I can't remember what the next size smaller is, but she always made it in a glass baking dish. I'm going to give you the times for both a glass and a metal baking dish, just because I did mine in a metal pan and it does take a little bit longer. So you need a 9x13 pan greased, and you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. You need 1.5 cups of regular white sugar, 1 stick, a half cup of butter softened, 2 eggs. I used 2 extra large eggs. So 2 eggs, 1 cup of sour cream, and I used Daisy light sour cream in this, and it worked just fine. So 1 cup of sour cream and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. That is your wet ingredients. Then the dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So what you want to do is put your dry ingredients in a bowl and blend them together, a separate small bowl. Just take your 2 cups of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Blend them up in a bowl, set them aside. Now, you want to cream in a separate bowl. You want to cream your 1.5 cups of sugar and 1 stick of softened butter together, and then add 2 eggs, beat them in, 1 cup of sour cream, beat that in, and then your teaspoon of vanilla and beat that in. Once that's all blended, you want to very carefully add your dry ingredients to your wet ingredients and blend that in until it's mixed well, and then add your 2 mashed ripe bananas and mix it in really well. Okay, there is your cake batter. Take that cake batter and scrape it into your prepared pan. Level it out. It's going to be a little bit on the thick side. Level it out and bake it. If you're using a glass baking dish, it'll be about 25 minutes. The metal pan took 35 minutes. So what I did is I set my timer to 25 minutes, and then I tested it with a toothpick and put it in for another 10 minutes because it was not done. Mine took a total of, like I said, 35 minutes in a metal pan, and it takes about 25 in a glass pan. Okay, once you bake that, take it out and put it on a cooling rack and let it cool. Now for the yummy frosting. This is probably a little different than any frosting recipe you've ever seen. It's a very thin frosting on the cake, and I think because the cake is sweet, it's not overly sweet, but because of the bananas are very sweet and, it's a little bit rich with the sour cream and everything and the butter, the frosting is kind of thin on it. So these are Aunt Rachel's yummy frosting instructions. You take 2 tablespoons of softened butter, 1 teaspoon of vanilla, and 1 teaspoon of milk, and put them in a bowl and set the bowl either on top of the warm stove that's warm because you just baked a cake in it, or you can even set it inside if you watch it real careful, and you want that to melt. Okay, you want the butter to melt, and then the milk will get warm, and then you're going to mix that all together once the butter's melted. Then you're going to stir in 2 cups of powdered sugar. So when you stir in the powdered sugar, this frosting is a little on the sticky side. You may need to add 1 or 2 teaspoons more of milk. I had to do that on mine. And just kind of mix it up. If you make it a little too runny, put a little more powdered sugar in it, whatever. But this doesn't make a ton of frosting. You're not putting a thick frosting on the cake. Okay? Now, you want to wait till the cake is almost completely cooled, just barely warm, because it makes the frosting easier to spread. Put your frosting on the cake by plopping little spoonfuls of it all over the cake, and then you can kind of join them together very carefully. That's what I did. The icing is not very thick. It's probably like a quarter of an inch thick, but it's perfect. It's the perfect amount. Once you've frosted it, you can eat it right then, but this is better if it sits for a little while and then you cut it, because it kind of, the moisture from the icing kind of adheres to the cake and it all kind of melds together and turns out to be this fabulous thing. I don't know what exactly happened in that pan after I put the lid on it, but it was fantastic. So that's Aunt Rachel's banana cake with yummy frosting. And I have eaten so much of it, I'm embarrassed to say how much. It came out really good. The cake, if you didn't put icing on it, just the cake itself is so good. But that small amount of icing on there is it's just the right thing. And this is very enjoyable. We enjoyed a lot of this at Aunt Rachel's house. Aunt Rachel enjoyed a lot of it because she was also famous for baking a cake and just eating it herself because, she lived by herself, and by golly, she liked to have cake.
I mean, why not? That's one of the reasons why she's my role model.
Yeah, she was pretty funny like that. She treated herself. So in memory of Aunt Rachel, I'm just going to say, treat yourself and enjoy this delicious banana cake with yummy frosting.
And make sure to check us out online on Facebook and Instagram at Mary Mac Bakehouse, on Twitter at Mobile Mary Mac and Mary Mac Podcast, and on our website, marymacpodcast.com.
Thanks a lot for listening if you did, and if you didn't, too bad for you.